With the release of chapters 3 and 4 of Deltarune, several theories have come out talking about the potential link between it and Undertale, and I think well-written analyses are the best content out there. In fact, it's what some say I do best. So, allow me to throw my hat into the ring. I have an analysis that may just change the way we think about Undertale, if not the world. What souls would the Founding Fathers have? Before we can answer, we need to do a deep dive into Undertale. What are the 7 human souls? Each soul has a different characteristic, and each human is defined by the characteristic of their soul. For instance, let's look into the orange soul. This soul's characteristic is bravery. This means the human who had this soul was brave. However, it should be noted that every soul has a little bit of determination. Now, as those of you who have played Undertale know, determination is what gives humans the power to persist after death, and gives them the power to change fate. This is what causes the human souls to rebel against Flowey and stay after death, ending up at the barrier with Asgore. Now you may be asking, how did the other humans die if they can persist after death? This is because determination is an added-on trait. The only reason that the main character, Frisk, can do it is because their soul's trait is determination, meaning that they have a higher amount than the other souls. This is also why Flowey comments on Frisk overriding his ability to save and load. The reason that Flowey could save and load was because of Alfie's experiment, which was putting determination, which was in every human soul, into a flower. Okay, so now that we've successfully gone off topic, let's start comparing them to the 7 Founding Fathers. Now here's how we will be determining which Founding Father gets which souls. Basically, the best way to do this is look at the soul's characteristics and see which Founding Father matches best. One more thing we should look at before we get down to the bone is the difference between the red soul and the purple soul, which are determination and perseverance. The best way to look at it is, determination will break down a barricade. If the barricade doesn't break down through force, they'll keep going until it eventually does. Perseverance, on the other hand, will look for ways around the barricade. If they can't find any, they will resort to a completely different path. One is more head-on, while the other is more logical. Okay, on to the fun part of the analysis. The first Founding Father we are going to look at is George Washington. George Washington was born in Virginia and eventually joined the British Army. He actually became the commander of the British Army and then discarded all of it to join the Continental Army. He actually led the Continental Army and fought in several battles during the war. The Continental Army had more losses than wins, but they still persisted under Washington's rule. This is the main reason I think George Washington's soul would be determination. During the pacifist route in Undertale, we face Azrael Dreamer and are tasked to save the world. If you happen to die in this boss fight, your soul doesn't shatter. It combines back together with 3 words, but it refused. I think this can be related to how George Washington refused to let the Continental Army lose and surrender, which makes me think this is a perfect fit for him. On to our next Founding Father, Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson's main role in the Revolutionary War was as the leading author of the Declaration of Independence. Remember, this was conjured up during the war with Britain, so this took some guts to write or even put your name on. This alone makes me think his soul would be bravery. He was also the 3rd president and the nation's 1st Secretary of State, but I don't really think these add anything to the analysis, so. Next, we have everyone's favorite singer, Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton did tons of work for the Revolution, but there's one thing that stands out the most: his dedication to getting citizens to accept the new Constitution. This came in the form of essays, called the Federalist Papers, split up between 3 people. In total, there was 85 essays written, with Alexander Hamilton writing 51 alone. I think this is the perfect example of perseverance. This next one is a little more cut and dry. I think that John Adams' soul would be kindness. This is because of how he opposed slavery, unlike most of the other Founding Fathers. Although he didn't want for slavery to end quickly, he did advocate for the idea of it slowly dying out. This was because he thought an abrupt stop to it would cause much more racism and struggle. Our next Founding Father is James Madison. Madison is often referred to as the father of the Constitution. Not only did he draft the Constitution, but he also drafted the Bill of Rights and worked on the Federalist Papers. To say this guy helped in the Revolution would be a huge understatement. I think that since he helped build what most of America stands on today, his soul would be justice. Now, on to our next Founding Father. I believe that John Jay's soul would be integrity. This is mainly because of a college named after him, which majors in criminal justice. You could also argue that his soul represents justice, but I think James Madison deserved it a little more than him. And for our final Founding Father, we have Benjamin Franklin. Franklin was one of, if not the smartest, Founding Fathers. He really was a big shot. He could speak 5 different languages, he was a scientist, inventor, and publisher. I personally think that one of the strongest attributes that someone smart can have is patience. With that being said, this matchup was probably the hardest one to think of because there wasn't really a founding father who matched up with patience, so I think this is the best outcome. Now in this circumstance, I think Omega Flowey would probably be equal to the King of Britain in this scenario, and all the founding fathers rebelled. I'm just kidding. Back on topic, we reviewed all of the founding fathers and all of the human souls. So next time someone mentions the founding fathers, you can know which soul they had. After all, I believe that obscure, silly things are what end up teaching us the most. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.